Dan, take it away with the Make Us Go Mini.
Would you like Big Code or Big Dreams?
Let's start with Big Code. Molecule is furiously working on making the Dreams beta a reality. It's not there yet, but as soon as we can get it to you, we will. When is the beta coming out? Ask everyone. I want to know the answer to that question. When it's good enough. It's getting there, but I'm afraid it's not quite there yet. And anyway, so what we're going to do today is that's what's currently on our PlayStation 4. It's a small Dream we've made with some beautiful sort of splats. Now, for those of you that know Dreams, everything is made out of these splats. Oh, Alex is making signs. What's up, Alex? Okay, when the code's up, there's no sound.
Okay.
Maybe the audio input's not set.
The audio input is set.
Okay. Well, guys, if you can't hear us when the code's up, shout. Okay. Oh, it stopped streaming on my laptop as well, just for extra. Is it working on the chat? Because it's definitely not working on my laptop.
It appears to be working here.
Okay, well, I'm just going to assume that's my laptop and shut my laptop because I don't want to see it. Cool, so Dreams. Everything is made out of splats. Little teeny tiny sprites, if you like. And in fact, in a way, that's a simple way of thinking about it. It's like, here we've got some, what are we looking at the moment, Dan? The PS4 big or the code big?
You're looking at code big.
Let's go PS4 big for a moment then, please. So here we are in Dreams, and we've just made a big square, and all of those sort of brushy sort of shapes that you can see are what we call splats. And in fact, using this quick debug menu that we have here, we can switch between different splat settings, and these are like the presets that you can dial in that quickly change the look of your sculpture. So we've got a very simple sculpture that's just one square, but by changing these presets, you get a different look. But what we thought would be fun is we're working at the moment to bring more life into Dreams. At the moment, Dreams that you've seen to date have very much been about sort of rigid sculpts moving around, and one of the things we're adding at the moment into the code is the ability to move those points and those splats around in interesting ways. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to code
a water ocean type shader.
Wave shader, yeah. There's a little bit of maths in there. It's not a lot of code, and we thought we could get it done quickly enough on stream that those of you who are interested in how programming works could see something of that. So with that in your mind's eye, let's dive into the middle of the shader that's generating that image.
Should I start typing things in?
Well, let's just have a bit of context.
Oh yeah, the context.
So if you scroll up, you don't need to understand all this code, but I'm just going to take you on a mini tour of what code looks like. So the scary thing about knocking your mouse off the thing, this is a compute shader, which is a particular kind of shader that your PC graphics card and your PS4 is capable of executing. And the idea of a compute shader is you run it over a lot of different things at once. In this case, we're running a compute shader for each of the little splats that you saw that make up that sort of water surface that you can see over there in the picture. And what this particular compute shader does is figure out where we should draw splats. So there's a lot of boilerplate and plumbing that you can ignore, but essentially we get down to this special piece of code that we've prepared just for the stream, which basically says if a special debug flag is set called debug flag force water, then we're going to change the world position and world normal of the splat. So instead of lying on the surface of your sculpt, we can make it move around and undulate. And so when this comes out in the final beta, instead of it being a debug flag, it'll be an option that you can click on in the sort of UI menu. Yeah. But for now, we switch it on as a debug flag. So our job today is to move the world position of each splat. And if you like, this code is running in parallel on the GPU of the PlayStation for every single splat on the screen, of which there are thousands and thousands. But the trick to shader programming is always to think about it as one pixel at a time, or one vertex at a time, in this case one splat at a time. So for example, if Mark adds 1 to the y coordinate, why don't you add a sine wave?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do sine wave of the, based on the x coordinate. Oh, okay, we're going to do an animated.
Base it on nothing.
On time. So he's pushed a button, the shader compiler's running, and now if you look in the little picture-in-picture, can we see the PS4? Every single splat is now being moved up and down in the y-axis based on time. So everything's moving in the sine wave. But the problem is every single splat's been told to do exactly the same thing, so you get a rather boring... so back to the code, we'll fix that.
So depending on the worldpos.x.
So let's add in the worldpos.x. In other words, the phase of the sine wave is going to be shifted based on the x coordinate. So if we switch back to the PS4, now you can see these rolling waves rolling through the
sea.
The sea. And when Mark was thinking about waves, we were talking about what shape waves are, and real waves aren't really gigantic sine waves.
No, they're not.
They're he's turned it down to 0.1, so they're little gentler waves, and it's nice.
Yeah, maybe a bit too gentle.
A bit gentle point. And this is one of the joys of graphics programming that I enjoy, is that you can quickly make a change and then see the result visually. And as someone who's very visually motivated, I like to be able to see what's going on. And our job at Media Molecule is to come up with these mathematical functions we're typing in on stream today. And then when you get the Dreams beta and Dreams the final game, we'll present all of these things in a kind of fun, gamey way. But today we're doing a under the hood stream. If you've just joined us, we're doing a behind the scenes of how we add features to Dreams. So here Mark is going to move the points. Instead of moving them up and down, he's going to move them in a little circle. And what's amazing about moving points in circles, so they're moving up and down, but they're also moving left and right. And so you get this kind of wobbling effect, which is actually exactly how real waves are.
Yeah.
In fact, Wikipedia can
yeah.
maybe the thing to look for on Wikipedia is Gerstner waves.
Yeah, yeah.
If you've ever gone swimming and you put a little float in the water and you make some waves, you'll notice that the float doesn't just bob up and down; it actually wobbles left and right as well.
Yeah.
And that's what gives you the classic peaky look.
Yeah. Also called trochoidal waves.
Trochoidal.
Trochoidal.
Yeah, which is the shape of a wheel rolling along the ground.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so
let's dive in and do. Shall we just do that?
Let's do some more. So the next thing I think is, our waves are moving along the x-axis. Let's pick a different direction for them to roll along.
Okay, I've prepared a special random number here, starting, which is res.water seed.
Okay, so let me talk about random numbers while
I'll type.
Mark types this in. So random numbers, well, there's no such thing as a real random number really, unless you happen to have a sort of radioactive Geiger counter near you or something. And in fact, in games, what you actually want nearly always is numbers that appear random, but they're not actually random. And there's a special function that we're using called a Wang Hash, after Mr. Thomas Wang. And it's a function that takes a simple number, say 56, and turns that number through a series of mathematical operations into a seemingly random one. So 56 turns into 1,000,000, and 57 turns into 5, and 58 turns into 1,000,000,003. And so the idea of the Wang Hash is you feed in very simple numbers. In this case, we're feeding in a so-called seed number, and out pops a completely, as far as a human is concerned, random. As far as the computer's concerned, it's just maths. But as far as we're concerned, we have no idea where that number popped out of. So it's not really random, but we call it random. And every single particle is getting the same random number. So what Mark's done here is he's unpacked that random number into 4 components, and then he's done a bit of scaling and adding to turn it into a random number between -0.5 and 0.5. And then he's turned that into a random 2D direction, which he's called wave_dir for wave direction. Graphics programs never like long variable names, do we? I don't know why. So let's slow down and I'll explain the code you've just written. So wave_dir is a random direction, and every single splat thinks of the same random direction. Then wave_x is a dot product of the position of the point with that direction, and that geometrically what that means is how far along in the wave direction am I? Remember, I'm thinking like I'm an individual splat. I'm one little splat on the surface. I'm trying to figure out how far in the direction of that wave I am. Then I'm saying the phase of my little circle is going to be, in other words, how far round the little circle I am is just going to be how far along the wave I am, which is exactly what we want. And then we add on a bit of time, and we get these rolling waves. So if we go back to the PS4, we see what looks like pretty similar to before. But the twist is, if we use our special debug slider setup, which is using an open source library called Dear I Am GUI, and you can check it out on GitHub. It was born on Tearaway by a Media Molecule guy called Omar Cornu, who's now making indie games, and he still works on this UI, so you can use it in your titles as well. So as we change that seed number, we get seemingly random directions. Just a small change in the seed number goes through the Wang hash, and out pops seemingly random directions, and we'll be able to use that later to add up lots of different directions. So we've got these lovely waves, but they're moving in the circles, which is cool. What's next, Mark?
Well, we can start to sort of put in like the proper physically based equation for waves in real water.
Let's do that. So let's bring up Wikipedia maybe and have a quick look at the equations. And there's a thing in games industry which I think is really interesting at the moment, and you might have heard of this phrase in lots of games called physically based rendering. And it's a pretty broad term, and all it really means is graphics engineers like us and game makers are starting to go and look up the physical equations of the real world, and rather than just making up some equations as we used to, just off the cuff,
which is still fun.
Like, oh, I'll have a sine wave here and a this there. People are now trying to sort of base it on physics, and what we've discovered is that very often it leads to more natural images that gamers and consumers respond to emotionally, because they're like, oh yeah, that's like the real world. So what Mark's brought up here is a Wikipedia page of the so-called Trochoidal Wave, which is what a classic deep water ocean wave looks like.
Yeah.
And what are we looking at? What's the?
Well, this is in the equation. I'm not sure if you can see this equation.
You can zoom it in with control and the mouse wheel.
Oh yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
Well, let's zoom it in a bit. There we go. Scroll to the end.
Oh, there we are. So this is what we're going to be. This is the equation we're going to be typing in, and each of these letters is related to something physical, like wavelength or gravity, and or how peaky you want the waves, which is just a parameter you can fiddle with. And so in the code, I'm going to figure out what I'll use the same variable names in the code as in the equation.
Okay, so we've got to type in that equation, the big x and y equals. We're going to literally type those directly in. So let's not fill out the a's and b's yet. Let's just write
write that bit.
Write that bit. So
yeah, okay.
So
y equals.
We're literally going to sort of type in the equation you can see in Wikipedia. So it's a times e to the k times b divided by k, multiplied by that sine wave that we were already looking at. K times a plus. Is that looking good? Is that what you wanted?
I think that is what I wanted.
Cool. And then we do the same thing for the y, which we can copy paste because it's Now, what that's basically saying is the points are moving in a circle as we talked about, but the size of that circle is related to these parameters, these numbers a, b, c, k. And the question is what they are. Now, not physically based would be to just make up some numbers,
which is what you see at the moment.
Yeah, we just typed in some. Our numbers were basically zeros and ones, but actually it turns out that those numbers are related to the strength of gravity on our planet and the surface tension of water and those sort of things.
And this is related to the wavelength. I don't know what I called it.
Yeah.
And it says here.
Does it derive it on the Wikipedia page? Should we scroll down a little bit?
If you scroll down, it says k equals 2 pi over lambda, where lambda is the wavelength.
Okay, so let's highlight it. So Wikipedia, this is a wonderful coding method called copying it from Wikipedia. So there it says k is 2 pi over lambda, so we have gone ahead and written in that k is 2 times pi over lambda. A is the position along the direction that remember we worked out, and now we can see that
let's type in
the
C.
phase of c is related to gravity divided by k. So we can rearrange that expression to figure out what c is. You should be able to figure that out. You just have to square root it.
I think the gravity is also an option
Let's feed that in.
that I've set up already.
Really good.
And then we just need B.
Now what's b?
B is a measure of how peaky you want your waves.
It changes the scaling. Now I've just spotted a typo that you've got here. It looks to me like, oh no, it is plus and minus. I see. I'm jumping to the gun. Right. So B is a measure of how big those circles are, and if you think about not moving in circles, you get that kind of rolling wave. And if you move in big circles, then the circle will sometimes actually sort of push backwards. It's almost like watching a point on a bike wheel go round as the wheel rolls forward, and it's sort of changing the size of the bicycle wheel relative to how fast it's moving forward.
So when B is 0, it's super peaky, and the less lower P gets, the less peaky it gets.
Okay.
So that's which is kind of an odd way around, because you think if you want it really peaky, you think it'd have to be.
Well, let's see how it looks.
Yeah. Anyway.
So, one of the interesting things about programming it like this is that you alternate between left brain and right brain. You alternate between copying equations out of Wikipedia or coming up with equations on your own, and then seeing what they look like. So, fairly quickly, we'll be able to look in Dreams and see what effect this is having on the movement of the particles.
Yeah. Should we do it?
Yeah, let's do it. So
I can see a bug, but shall I fix the bug first?
Yeah, fix the bug first
because we're adding to the world position, and A is already a world position.
Okay, so we just take that.
We just take that bit away, and the same here.
Okay.
Really. So
should that be a minus there though?
Yeah, that should still be a minus.
Okay.
If it wasn't a minus, then the water would move in the way the bicycle, a point in a bicycle wheel moves.
So it turn the waves upside down.
Yeah.
Peaks will be at the bottom, troughs will be at the top. Okay.
Exactly.
So if we switch to the PS4,
this almost certainly there'll be compile errors.
did we mess up? So we've still got our sort of made up equations on the left, but now Mark's just going to quickly fix a typo that he made, which is, read the tiny writing.
Oh, T, I haven't defined what T is.
T is time. That's nearly always the case anyway. Right, so if we press the recompile button,
hopefully something will happen.
Hoping that something will happen.
Oh, there you go.
So the cool thing is that because we've plumbed those parameters through, we can now use Omar's IMGUI debug user interface to change things like the peakiness. So when it's peaky, you get kind of peaky waves, and when it's soft, you get these kind of undulating waves. And these are the sort of controls that we play with in the debug slider, and then eventually we'll expose them.
We'll set it on a good number. We think, oh gosh,
a good range of numbers maybe. So these are the sort of things that turn up on tweak menus in LBP. And part of the process of developing Little Big Planet and now developing Dreams is finding what the right combination of numbers to expose, but also not too many, because we don't want to overwhelm people with too many knobs and sliders. So we give ourselves hundreds of sliders, and then we find a nice range of them that we can boil down and give to you guys, so that you have loads of control, but you're not also overwhelmed by maths. So it's looking good?
Yeah, I think
Happy
this
with
is
that?
looking good, yeah.
Are we filling in the normal? So one thing is the game is lighting all of these splats as if they were flat. So although the waves are bumping along, you have to actually tell the engine what the angle of the surface is, and that's called the normal. And basically, if we switch back, we're on the code. Well done, Dan. So the normal to a circle is actually its own position. That's actually the definition of a circle in a way. So what Mark is doing is he's writing down that the amount he's pushing the position by, the amount that the wave wobbles the point, also wobbles the normal. So it couldn't be simpler really. So he's pushing the position, and now he just needs to push the normal as well by the same amount, but scaled, interestingly, by K. Now why is that?
Because we are differentiating the equation for wave dx.
Okay.
And
right. So the normal is like the differential of the position.
With
respect to wave dx.
With respect to wave x.
Oh, with respect
and
to wave
which
x,
is
right.
which is the same as a.
Okay.
And a is being multiplied by k. And so if you remember from your
maths class,
school,
high school maths.
Yeah. So it pops outside of the sign.
It's the product rule, is it, or is it the? It's
the chain rule.
Chain rule. This is the chain rule in action, kid. If you've ever sat in high school maths class and wondered what the chain rule was good for, now you know. Computing the normal to the surface of waves.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right, let's give
it a go. So if we go back to the PS4, now this change is going to be subtle. The look of the lighting is going to shift.
Ooh.
And suddenly
I think
it's much nicer. It looks as if it's actually lit like a bumpy surface, whereas before it was like being lit incorrectly. Now it's catching the light as those waves scroll into the distance. And so it's these tiny little differences that make a difference. And although it seems like a very abstract bit of maths, a gamer will look instantly and go, something looks a bit wrong, so you have to get all these things just right. Even with a painterly style of game like Dreams.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're nearing completion, but I think to make this look a bit more watery, I think we don't just want plain waves.
No. Real water has got waves travelling all sorts of different directions, and all big ones and little ones as well. So
the number one rule in computer graphics is don't do something once, do it lots of times. So what Mark is doing is writing a for loop here, which is like a loop, and he's just going to basically do what we just did a bunch of times and add up all the waves, and that's kind of like wave interference. Now, so he just puts a big for loop around it, but we don't want all the waves that we're adding up to be identical. We want each one to have a different angle. So what we do is we compute a different random seed for each one, and hence the genius of the Wang Hash. Octave is just changing 0, 1, 2, 3.
I was going to multiply.
No, that's
fine.
fine.
There's no need to.
And so as a result, random seed will be different for each of the waves that we're adding up, and therefore the direction will be different, and therefore the waves will. If we go back to the PS4, Dan can push the button. Suddenly.
I've got another compiler.
No, stay on PS4. It's fine. Mark can.
It's impossible to write code without anything simple as for int octave.
What have you got wrong?
Octave.
Octave spelling mistake. Okay. So we push the button again with the typo fixed. No.
Water.
Oh, sorry.
I can't remember if it's octaves or octave.
I'll just try it. There we go. We're old and aging.
Oh dear.
There we go.
Oh goodness
me! Suddenly, look, lots of choppy waves. Let's turn the number of octaves down. That's 19 different waves being added up.
Let's just
let's
have
with one,
and then add another one.
Let's have 2. Ooh, change the seed. Well, they're almost in the same direction.
We want the first 2 to be.
That's quite cool.
There you go. They're similar enough, different enough, aren't they?
Yeah. Cool. And as you add more octaves, you get more and more sort of complicated interference patterns in the waves. And it begins to look more and more watery.
Maybe it's a bit too peaky.
A bit too peaky? A bit more gentle. If you change gravity, that changes the C number. It actually changes the frequency of the waves.
Yeah, so in planets with low gravity, water waves are very slow.
Oh, they move slowly. I see.
Yeah, and so the bigger the gravity,
the more they sort of bob
water
up and down.
Will do this.
Yeah, there you go. Physically based waves.
Exactly.
So yeah, that was a sort of random little walk through coding. I think we should just switch back to the code for a second and have a look at what we've ended up writing. So scroll up a bit so that the picture-in-picture isn't overlapping. Maybe another couple of lines. Just move it. So that's an example of a little piece of code that's being run on the PlayStation 4's graphics card to wobble the points around, if you like, to move the splats in Dreams. And one of the sort of tricks that we're planning to give you in Dreams, which we haven't been able to show in videos, simply because we haven't had it. This is literally a feature which we're doing on the stream now, and will actually make it into the game. Is finding cheap ways to give you cheap but powerful, cheap to compute, easy to set up, but visually powerful ways to animate and move things, so that you don't have to set up gigantically complicated rigs. You can just dial in these different effects. And one of the things that Mark's been working on a lot in Dreams is the tools that you've seen maybe on the streams, where you can draw strokes. So a lot of Dreams has been about sculpting, but actually a really fun way of using Dreams is to draw strokes, which I call Adami strokes after Mark, and then animating those strokes in really simple ways. So for example, making them move like a rope, or making them wobble in the wind, or making them what else have we got?
We've got you can draw a river and just set them moving, so you can have the water go down the hill, or smoke, or fire, or all those effects.
What's wonderful about these sort of things is that we're presenting it as water, but no doubt when we hand this over to you guys, what you'll end up doing is you won't use it as water. You'll make a little patch of it, and you'll, instead of doing it on a box, you'll, I don't know, do it on a spaceship, and then it'll be all the fire on the back of a thruster, and you'll make it bright red, and you'll change the splatting settings, and you'll find a way to make this look like something completely different from what we intended. But that's in a way what we intended. It's like the double bluff. And these are so-called stateless. This is like a particle simulation, really. Yeah. But what's amazing about it is that its only variable, if you like, is time. So it's stateless, meaning that the computer's not needing to remember where every single particle is. Every frame, the GPU on the PlayStation recomputes where all of those little hairy particles are, and they just appear to move in a kind of coherent way because of maths. And stateless things are very powerful because they're very cheap to compute. They use very little memory. So this water surface that we've just made burns up a few of the flops. I think the PlayStation 4 has a teraflop of flops. That's how big is a teraflop?
It's enormous.
It's 1,000 billion, I think. Is it?
Yeah, 1,000 billion.
1,000 billion.
So it's like a teraflop is like if your processor was running at 1 terahertz.
Terahertz, yeah. So the PlayStation 4's GPU, just a GPU, can do 1 trillion operations per second, and we've just burned up some of those operations to wobble our splats around. But it's luckily not too many of that trillion have been burned up, so this ends up being a very cheap effect, and your thermometer, or whatever we'll call it in Dreams, won't bump up too far when you dial this effect in. Whereas if we'd had to store every single one of those points and compute its motion in a stateful way, then perhaps we would have had to use more memory, we would have had to use more processor time. So that's a day in Mark's life.
Yeah.
Narrated by... I don't narrate his life normally. I sit behind Mark and
if you could, that would be nice.
Yeah, let's have a look on the stream. I've got my little laptop here, so maybe we can...
There's lots to talk about Wang.
Wang. You can Google Wang. Mr. Wang.
Yeah.
It's a great name, you know.
So when you type it in your code, you can't stop saying the word Wang. There's something about it.
My favourite thing is that Wang Hash is reversible, so you can un-Wang something. I wish...
I didn't know Wang Hash was reversible. That's amazing.
Didn't you know that?
No.
Yeah, you can un-Wang.
Goodness me.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I've got it.
That's the only way to wang.
It's in.
I'd have to see it in
do a quick search for un-Wang in the code while we're chatting. Let's see.
God, that's all the more amazing.
Oh, my computer's decided not to update the chat. So
Can you make some waves bigger than others?
Ah, yeah, good question. So, not with this technique as we've written it, but you could quite cleverly create so without any... The thing with Dreams is the answer to every question is yes. The only question is like, how? So here's one way you could do it. You could have 2 sculpts in Dreams with this water effect on them, and you have one of them with the big water effect settings and one of them with little water effect settings, and you literally just overlap them. And one of the things we've found in Dreams is that just overlapping things is a really nice way, because everything's so made out of these fuzzy splats. Unlike a traditional engine, the overlaps look really nice. So one way to do it if we don't give you the feature in the code, is that you can do it by overlapping multiple dreams. Now, mathematically, could we do it? Yes. We'd probably have to change the code a little bit. What could we do, Mark? Can you?
Well, if you wanted to have sort of normal water and then one big wave coming in, we'd have to. That'll take more than 2 minutes to write.
Yeah, but would be doable.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean that'd be something that'd be great to have. Would be good. Be good for gameplay. For doing a
tsunami level.
Yeah,
I mean the interesting thing is that you can combine techniques, and you guys will be able to combine techniques. So when I was talking about stateful and stateless, an example, like if you wanted to do a level where a dam breaks and then tons of stuff tumbles down, rocks and debris and sound effects go off, you wouldn't make that with a single sculpt. You'd do that by placing lots of sculptures. Maybe you'd have some emitters, if you know from Little Big Planet, you'd have emitters to emit some debris and other stuff. And what we'll also allow you to do is have, we're going to have a water simulation. So it's very expensive in a thermometer, but you have a small amount of sort of actual fluid simulation flowing through the level. But what's cool is each of those individual elements can then have this kind of effect that we've just coded applied on top. And it's really about layering up all these different ideas. We're showing you like one of the ingredients is like we're showing you the basil on the pizza. And then to get the full effect, it's going to require your ingenuity and your collective genius of taking all of the ingredients that we give you in dreams and then combine them together into a pizza or tsunami or whatever it is you want to make.
Tsunami.
Yeah, and when I say, someone said, "Oh my God, water confirmed," it's like we're working on it right now. So the the classic trade-off is people say, "Can we have the beta?" and then we get distracted because we start adding water simulations. But so there's a trade-off of when we get you the beta in and how many features it has. But Anton, who we could always get in here later, is currently cooking on a cool new set of physics features.
Yeah.
Right now, which will have. Well, in his testbed, he's got some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
It's not in the game yet, so we can't promise it. But I mean, he's got in his testbed all sorts of things: cloth and fluid and rope and everything. So he's got soft bodies going because so far in Dreams we've only shown rigid bodies, and it's only in testbed form. But hopefully we'll be able to fold it into Dreams when it arrives. I'm not going to say, but it will definitely be in. So it's about combining these different elements. Some elements are good for some things, some are good for others, and it also depends on how much thermometer you want to spend. So do you want your level to be all about the water? Then you can have loads of simulations. If you want it to just be an effect that's in the background, if you were making a game like The Witness or something where you just want an island in a nice peaceful sea, this would be perfect for that. You wouldn't need the simulation.
No.
On the other hand, if you wanted to make a game where you actually had to channel the water around or something, then you'd want the full simulation.
Yeah.
So that's the fun thing about Dreams. We try to give you ingredients that cover the range. Right, yes, pirate dreams, absolutely. And what's amazing is that as we add these features, it changes what levels we make. The designers here are always a bit sad looking because it keeps changing underneath them, and then they realise they can do cool new stuff. Can we show how music will work? Not today. We will show music at some point. Bogdan has got some good stuff. I've got hiccups. Can you make bendy objects? Not at the moment. Well, actually, you can make squash and stretchy objects. So you can. Oh, you see, this is a question. The answer to all of your questions is yes. How easy is it to make bendy objects? So Mike, back when I was saying to them that they could never ever have bendy objects, and never ever say to a designer, and you guys are all designers, I'm sure, never ever say never to a designer. And so Mike proceeded to build, was it Mike? He made a squashy bendy thing, and the way he did it was he made lots and lots of sculpts that were just overlapping, and then he very cleverly used logic and animation to kind of move them, if you like, in a sort of bendy way, and it looked perfect, and we were all shocked at how good it looked. And so then of course the engine department was shamed into adding some features, and so we added squash and stretch. We haven't added bend yet, but we've added squash and stretch, which is really good for characters. So we use it very subtly. When you possess a character, we actually squash and stretch the limbs a little bit, I believe. Right. I can't keep up with this. Any ones you spotted, Dan?
No, that's pretty much general hype for everything you guys have been doing.
Cool. Oh yeah. Oh, was it Mike's Bacon Guy? Martin has revealed it was Bacon Guy who was the first squash and stretchy. You're never writing to worldpos.z. Doesn't that mean your waves are all going along one axis? Good question. The waves, each octave is in its own axis, but if you look carefully, you're right. Who spotted the bug? You are a winner.
Grumpy Giant 256.
That is amazing.
Grumpy Giant 256 has detected a bug. That is a typo. We should have added in a wave there. Let's have a look and see how that changes.
How does it look so good?
I don't know. Grumpy... Hang on, what was your name again?
Grumpy Giant 256.
Let's switch to the PS4 to see the change. Oh, much better. Okay, hang on. Let's just switch to the PS4. Well done, Grumpy Giant. Bug fix. QA, full marks. So this is with Grumpy Giant's fix. Okay, let's switch. Let's stay on the PS4. Let's go back to how the Adami lame version.
Oh, it's the Adami lame version.
Yeah, let's go back to the lame version that we had a minute ago without Grumpy Giant's fix. Ready? Are you ready for the lame version? 3, 2, 1. It's coming. Oh, rubbish. Rubbish. Let's go back to Grumpy Giant's version. So there you go. Well done, Grumpy Giant.
Grumpy Giant deserves a Dreams t-shirt for that.
We're fired. I think Grumpy Giant does deserve a Dreams t-shirt. Well done, Grumpy Giant 26. Win. Is it 256, I think?
That is really...
We're fired. P45. Cool.
Great.
Are we good? How's our timing? And let's do one more question. Just scrolling. Are there synthesizers? There are lots of synthesizers. Basically, the X, if you like, the sort of underlying spirit of Dreams is performance. The idea that you can, with your DualShock controller, really affect the visuals, the sound, the gameplay. And so, what we did with the audio is, it's almost like you can manipulate sounds, which in the end is what a synthesizer is. A synthesizer is a gadget for manipulating sounds, and in Dreams that's exactly what you do. You manipulate, you perform sounds, whether you're using it for music, or for voiceover, or for character voices, or for sound effects. You take sounds and then you manipulate them, you re-synthesize them technically, and I believe the main synthesizer we're using is a granular synth. So if you want to Google that, but the funny thing about granular synths is you can do a lot with them. Like there's extreme things that you can do with them that sound very granular, but actually you can do other things like pitch shifting and time stretching and stuff. But we'll get into the details of that another time. But believe me, it's super powerful. Can you four-legged characters to possess? They haven't built any four-legged ones, but in fact, can I reveal? I'll just say this: in Little Big Planet, I'll tell you something about Little Big Planet. In Little Big Planet, there's a direct control seat, right? Any of you guys who know the direct control seat, which basically allowed you guys to build levels where Sackboy could control anything in the world. And I think it'd be a shame if Dreams didn't have something at least as powerful as that. So, that, basically. Does Mark plan on doing stop-motion animation style playback? Yes. I told you, the answer to all questions is yes. I think we should just end on that. Any mirror or glass transparent effects. Actually, I was talking about this pre-stream, so there's a great presentation from Morgan Maguire at NVIDIA, which has nothing to do with Dreams, but he has a great slide in there where he says, the industry standard way of doing transparency is not to do transparency. So if you've ever looked in all your games, you'll notice that there's very little glass, and when there is glass, it's tiny, teeny, tiny, and normally a complete hack. So at the moment in Dreams, we don't have any glass. And of course Mike Pang, he of the wobbly, stretchy bacon, found a cool way of doing glass, which we're going to rip off and make easy. So there will be glass, and it's really cool. And it's kind of, it's inspired by something that one of the designers did without any code. So that's going to be what it's like when we get the beta out, I think. So thank you for the bug fix.
Amazing.
And thank you for the Will You Fire Evans? I don't know if I'm going to get fired. Yeah, you can.
There's always a chance.
Yeah, basically you can control everything. I shouldn't say that, should I? 42 is the answer to the universe. Oh, I'll end you on a cool little maths thing. Backwards of 42 is 24, and 2.4 is almost exactly the golden angle. And if you Google the golden angle, you get the most beautiful spiral. If you look into a sunflower, look into the, or a broccoli, what are those crazy broccoli spirals?
Yeah.
That is a golden spiral, and the angle between pips is 2.4, almost exactly 2.4 radians, which is 42 backwards, as pointed out to me on Twitter by Creelers. So, yeah, I think Douglas Adams was onto something. We need transparency for water. Yeah, transparency is good. Can I make midis in Dreams? Actually, there's a hobby project to support OSC, but it's not official. But I'm quite tempted to support OSC if you're used to OSC. I think we should wrap it up. I think it's bedtime.
Yeah, I quite like these settings.
We might have to screen grab this. So, any last words, Mark? Any questions for Mark before we go? Is Mark the best pianist at Media Molecule? Yes. Is this game made of cats? Yes. Fibonacci? Yes.
The answer to everything is yes.
The answer to everything is yes. And on that bombshell, can you swim? You could make swimming. As in, yes. I think it's yes. I think we just have. Can we just have a title card that just says yes?
I can
brilliant. We can arrange that. Thank you very much for your time, everybody. I'm really sorry the YouTube stream didn't work out. We will sort that out before the next stream, we promise. And we'll get better at this streaming thing, I think, over time. Yeah. But you can watch this archived on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/user/Media Molecule. You can watch it on the Twitch archive, which is media_molecule. And follow us on Twitter, Media Molecule. And you'll be able to catch up on the madness of Dreams and find out what we're streaming next time. Merci everyone, and have fun. Get coding. Everyone learn to code.
Thank you for the bug fix.
Thank you for the bug fix. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.